so many commercials for Ozempic as I have in the last week or so. And I'm not just picking on Ozempic, all other drugs in that class, Ozempic, Trulicity, Mounjaro. It's like they're all knowing in advance, here comes the holidays and it's not going to be fruitcake, that's for sure.
These kind of drugs are in short supply because people are using them for the weight loss reasons. Sure. And then diabetics can't actually find them because they're being used for a reason that really wasn't originally designed to do.
Ozempic may not be a non-prescription drug. Let's just say I got a couple of doses from a friend or a relative. Okay, number one, I may not tell you I'm on that medication because I don't want to get that person in trouble. So the dental professional, the dentist, the hygienist, even the assistant, everyone who's taking a medical history has no knowledge of those things because the patient doesn't offer it up because they don't think they need to tell you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast. So glad that you've joined us. And I've got to be honest, I'm super excited to have a dear friend back today and somebody who has contributed to so many Dental Assistant Nation episodes in the past. And that is America's pharmacology expert, Tom Viola. Tom, what is going on, my friend?
How are you doing, my friend? I am so happy to be working with you again at Dr. Bicuspid. Congratulations on your reenactment of the same role you had so many years ago, my friend. It's good to have you back in the fold and good to be able to talk to you again. And I love doing these podcasts. You know, we were doing them along the way, but let's do them more often because this is just the best way I know to get out and reach the dental assistants and all the other dental folks who listen on these podcasts. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is a resolution. I know we're not supposed to have too many of those in a new year, but 2024, you and I hanging out more, it's absolutely something I want to do. And Tom, I'm just going to say, first of all, congratulations to you as well. I know you're in the running for, now I had nothing to do with this, but Dental Educator of the Year through drbicuspid.com. And, you know, you and I always talk about, you're always on the road, you're always educating, and I was really glad to see that you're a finalist for that honor. So congratulations to you on that, buddy.
Thank you, but I'm humbled and really appreciative that all those folks out there who voted for me are doing so. It's I consider this a privilege and a gift, really, to be able to do this every day. So thank you to all of you out there who voted for me. I appreciate it.
So we're recording this right before the holidays, and what a perfect time. We know we're all going to be festive and ingesting lots of calories and all sorts of good things coming up. You know, and it's funny, I always see the ads. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right here. Trust me. I always see all the ads for all the weight loss drugs and everything that's going to make our life better, you know, come across my TV. You know, and one that I've seen advertised is Ozempic. And Sure. You found a little something that you want to share with our listeners and viewers about that and a dental connection to it as well.
Yes, absolutely. You know, one of the things that always strikes me is the timeliness of TV commercials and how people who produce these commercials seem to take the pulse of America and sort of figure out, you know, what's hot, what's not, and what's timely. And I think over the last, and I don't watch a lot of TV, as you know, Kevin, I'm on the road almost every day of the year practically. Yep. I don't watch a lot of TV, but the times I do sit down in front of the TV, I haven't seen so many commercials for Ozempic as I have in the last, you know, week or so. And I'm not just picking on Ozempic, all other drugs in that class, Ozempic, Trulicity, Mounjaro. It's like they're all knowing in advance, well, here comes the holidays and it's not going to be fruitcake, that's for sure. It's going to be, you know, everything else piled on top of it. And that means some folks are going to take either a retroactive approach or a proactive approach and use Ozempic to help sort of keep their weight, you know, where they need it to be throughout the holidays. Some of the greatest concerns people have around the holidays is that they gain weight because it's, you know, like a nonstop eating free-for-all, you know, visiting up relatives and loved ones. And so I could see some people using Ozempic for that regard. But Ozempic's got its issues when it comes to food intake. And one of the first things that's come up is this issue of Ozempic causing gastroparesis. So I will tell you that it's in keeping with the way the drug works. You know, this whole class of drugs, the incretin mimetics, were really derived from the saliva studies that were done on the Gila monster, that little reptile that lives out in Arizona and mostly in the Grand Canyon. And the Gila monster has beaten evolution, according to the way I understand it, by staying small. So why would a Gila monster stay small? Well, eating protein, mostly insects and snake eggs, and the Gila monster should have grown to be, you know, a lot larger than it is now, but then it would have outgrown its food supply. So it cheats evolution by staying small. And one of the ways it does that is by secreting this hormone such that after it eats, it shuts down, slows down its gastric emptying time so that that one meal lasts a really long time. Great for survival in the desert, right, when food is scarce, and great for staying small so you don't get too big, so you don't go extinct route, right?
Smart.
Smart stuff, right? The heck does this have to do with diabetes and obesity? So, researchers realize that us humans are not far off the reptilian evolutionary tree. Some of us more than others, I'm sure. But, so let's see if we make this hormone. And it turns out that we do make a similar hormone, but diabetics, type 2 diabetics, don't make as much or as much as they need. Or some make enough, but they have an overactive enzyme that destroys it. So what better way to treat these nice folks than with synthetic, incretin mimetics? And that's where these class of drugs came from. But they share that same, slow down your gastric emptying time, make meals last longer, lower your postprandial glucose. Guess what? That all means for a type 2 diabetic or a person with type 2 diabetes, it's more controllable blood sugars, right? A better way to control your blood sugar after you eat. But of course, it also means if you're not diabetic or type 2 diabetic and you want to lose a little weight, well, what better way to lose weight than not feel hungry?
Truth. Yep.
So shutting down your gastric emptying time or slowing it down means that, that meal's going to last you longer. You're not going to be hungry. You're not going to have those pangs and cravings. But sometimes it's too much of a good thing. And folks who are using a lot of Ozempic, now, I don't want to comment so much on it, Kevin, because I don't really know. I know some people get prescribed Ozempic,
right,
even if it is for weight loss. I know there are those people out there that self-medicate. Don't know, but all I know is, it's too much of a good thing. Some folks are now starting to complain that they've got this gastroparesis where it's like their gastrointestinal system is paralyzed and they can't move any food, and now they can't eat, they can't, digest anything. So that's the darker side of Ozempic and drugs like it.
And the interesting thing to me is that I understand that these kind of drugs are in short supply because people are using them for the weight loss reasons.
Sure.
And then diabetics can't actually find them because they're being used for a reason that really wasn't originally designed to do.
And that's the thing about Ozempic that's interesting. It is available in two forms. It's available as the drug Ozempic for the treatment of type 2 diabetes, but semaglutide is also available as a prescription drug to be prescribed for obesity or for weight loss called Wegovy. And then it's further available now as an oral tablet called Rybelsus. So it's odd to have one drug with three brand names, but the point of that little discussion was if you're an MD out there and you're prescribing this drug semaglutide for weight loss, well, you should be prescribing Wegovy. But the problem, of course, is that Wegovy may be considered a cosmetic drug and therefore not covered under people's insurance. It's kind of pricey, and so it's easier for the doctor to prescribe Ozempic where it would be covered under their prescription.
And, whenever you and I were talking before we started this podcast, you said that there's actually another dental connection here with Ozempic. And this was pretty fascinating to me because you and I love to talk about that health history form. And I think there's a reason maybe Ozempic and some others ought to be on it because of this.
Right. So here come the holidays, and you and I are recording this right before the holidays. So we're thinking, okay, a lot of people are going to be eating, right? A lot of people are going to be enjoying. Now I'm going to use Ozempic or Wegovy, either one, to suppress my appetite. But if I'm, encouraged to eat a lot of good foods, right? I might say, well, look, I've already got Wegovy or Ozempic on board. I can probably overindulge a little bit and I won't gain the weight, right? Because it's sort of like, well, it's a diet drug, isn't it? And that's sort of that misunderstanding now. That means what? You're putting more food into your GI than your GI will allow to pass, right? Because we're slowing down your gastric emptying time. And so that causes problems with things like vomiting and so on. But also, and this is something that Scott Fromm had talked about in a post he did a couple of weeks ago, where now we find that Ozempic, because it slows the gastric emptying time, increases the risk of halitosis.
There it is.
Because food is not moving, right? So food is stuck in your GI. And so if it sits down there long enough at a balmy 98.6, as I like to say, can you say landfill in July? It's just going to sit there, and either you're going to vomit it up or you open your mouth to say something. This is like a friend or a relative at the Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever your holiday, Kwanzaa, whatever your holiday dinner is. And that person will look at you and say, wow, good seeing you again, and sort of walk away. Now, if I had halitosis, especially during or after the holidays, the person next to me at the party says, wow, your breath is kicking. Where would I go to get that checked out? Well, I guess I'd go to see the dentist or the hygienist and say, what's going on? Why does
Absolutely.
my breath smell? I brush and I floss. Floss, I'm not sure, but they brush. So why is their breath so stinky? And we've got to be the one to tell them it could be a side effect of the medication.
And that's where I love you being dental's pharmacology expert, that you kind of connect the dots for so many people, because I know that there are people who walk into praxis with that question. Why is my breath so stinky? Why do I have halitosis? And sometimes it's an unpacking if you haven't really gotten down and dirty with that health history report and asked them everything they're on, and they haven't tipped the hand that maybe Ozempic or one of those other forms of it is part of their regimen.
And while we're at it, I mean, even if it's not necessarily Ozempic, I mean, a lot of people also around this time of year eat foods they're not usually accustomed to eating, foods that may cause them, much the word, I just don't like it. I mean, I'll just say it, the heartburn,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So these drugs cause them heartburn. So what do? They pre-dose with a Nexium or a Prilosec or a Pepsid. And it's sort of the same thing. You're shutting off your stomach acid production. The food can't get digested. Food won't pass the duodenum unless it's been digested. So it sits in your stomach at a balmy 98.6, and here we go again. So imagine if you were doing both. Imagine if you were not only, taking Ozempic plus, taking a drug like Nexium. That could really add up to a night in the ER during the holidays where you really don't want to be there.
And the problem that I see, and I'm sure you've heard of it, is that people mix their own medications. They're not those pharmacology experts, and they just think, well, I'm going to do this to prevent this, but stop this. And what about this? And again, a lot of times those are the people who are walking into dental practices ahead of a checkup, ahead of a implant, ahead of a lot of different things. So that's where that communication just has to come in. And often the dental assistant is the one that's really making sure that you're checking the boxes on that HHR.
Couldn't have said it better, my friend. And the thing is, Ozempic may not be a non-prescription drug, but if it's something that I purchased, I hate to use, I don't want to say black market, but let's just say I got a couple of doses from a friend or a relative,
Sure.
or maybe my doc's prescribing it off label. Okay, number one, I may not tell you I'm on that medication because I don't want to get that person in trouble. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that.
Yeah.
So that goes off the HR history, right? You don't even know it exists because I'm the patient, not going to tell you. And then, at the same time, Prilosec, Nexium, they're available over the counter. So why would I mention those? Because they're not really a drug. They're available over the counter. So the dental professional, the dentist, the hygienist, even the assistant, everyone who's taking a medical history has no knowledge of those things because the patient doesn't offer it up because they don't think they need to tell you or want to tell you.
That's true. And I know you and I in past podcasts have implored to ask those questions, to really make sure that you're diving in. But you're exactly right. At some point, you may have a patient who's very reluctant to say anything about it, whether it's the use of marijuana, whether it's Ozempic, who knows? There's a myriad of things that they may not want to share with you, and that puts the dental professional in a tough spot.
Well, I had the strategy, Kevin. I was going to, go to my relative's house because they make all the good Italian food. But I was going to use a combination of Ozempic to make sure I don't gain weight. And then I was going to use Nexium to make sure that I don't get any heartburn. And then just to top it off, I was going to make sure I use Tums to neutralize any more acid. So I was really going to do a number on myself. I chose not to. Of course, I'm being facetious, but you can see how somebody could easily go down that road.
Absolutely.
And it'd be difficult for you to know.
And we know, as you said, this is the time of year when people are eating and drinking a lot. Now, you may be listening to this in January, and we've already passed that. But you and I also know Valentine's Day will happen. There's always something coming where we have an excuse to eat.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that this information is so important, no matter what time of year you're listening to this.
Agreed. And on that note, Kevin, I might say, especially after New Year's, you might resolve, right, to say, this is the year I lose that extra 20 pounds. And so here you go. So our information is timely both during and after the holidays. How about that?
And, as a mutual friend of ours, Mary Gavoni, always tells me, better living through pharmaceuticals is such a way of life for so many people. And unfortunately, that could be diet pills in January, too. You're exactly right. Well, something to keep in mind. I always appreciate you bringing it. And Tom, I know you have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of resources out there. So make sure, if our dental assistants have heard you for a while, where do they find you? Where do they learn more?
Well, one thing I've learned for sure from you, my friend, and I appreciate everything you do for the practice of dentistry and dental assisting. The dental assistants out there are really, the front door to the office, right? So they're the ones that greet the patients, that walk with the patients. They become the face of the dental office, the first face you see when you walk in, the first face that greets you. And so I'm always anxious to hear from dental assistants because I learn so much from them. So please feel free to call me or contact me anytime. You can reach me via my website, tomviola.com. You can find me everywhere on social media at Pharmacology Declassified, which is the name of my company. And heck, I'm going to be at pretty much all the big dental meetings this year. So if you're going to be one of the national or regional meetings and you see my course being offered, please stop by and say hi. I'd love to meet you, shake hands. Come to my course too while you're at it. And I'm sure there'll be empty seats because it's always pharmacology, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, stop on over and say hi. I'd love to meet you and put a face to a name.
There's a reason why he's one of the finalists for Dentist Educator of the Year, because he not only entertains and enlightens dentists, but also team members as well. And that's one of the reasons, many reasons, I should say, why we love Tom Viola. So Tom, thanks for being on, my friend. Always appreciate you.
Always loving what we do together, buddy. And thank you so much for the opportunity. You hang in there and take care of yourself. And happy holidays.
Hey, happy holidays to you too. And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode. Love people like Tom, who are those experts in the industry, bringing you the information that you can put into practice today. So make sure you're checking in with those patients. You're asking about that health history report. And yeah, maybe even poking them a time or two with those tough questions. But until next time, Kevin Henry, host of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast, signing off and wishing you nothing but success ahead.